Sorry for the delay there, live listeners. It's time for Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. You can follow me, and the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube channel, and you can leave your comments right down below, and I swear I will read them. I will even read the ones who are mad at me, like the ones who say I talk about the stadium situation with the A's and the Rays too much because, brace yourselves, folks. We are going to talk about that in segment 2 today. But again, for those of you watching the live feed, I'm sorry there was a delay at the beginning to getting hooked on there. I was having a little bit of a technical issue that I think is fixed right now. But I see some of you are in the live chat right now. All right. Well, it's first of all, let's go through the trivia question. Let's get right on it. We're doing a Sunday morning show, and I think the Roku game is starting right now. Isn't that exciting? I like that there's an early game on the Sunday morning, and I like that I can watch it on my MLB app. There you go. See how easy that is? The game is on Roku, okay? But because I'm a subscriber to MLB TV, I could watch it on the app and I have it on my smart TV. See that? See that? You could do the same thing with the Apple TV game, and you could do that the same thing with the ESPN game, and you do the same thing with the local games. You remove the blackouts on all of those for subscribers. If you want to watch those, you subscribe to MLB TV, and some of that goes over there. They do it with Roku. Why couldn't you do it with Apple TV? There was a great game, a great, weird game that took place on Friday between the Mets and the Dodgers that may still be going on. It was an extra inning game, and there was a rain delay. And it was on Apple TV. So that's what you want, a really key matchup with the two biggest markets and an NLCS rematch of two teams that are really, really likely to be in the playoffs this year, and hide it on Apple TV so people can't see it. And that's what you're doing. You're hiding it so people can't see it. That's just dumb. Let's do the trivia question. I said when they had Stacey Gotsulias on the show on Friday. Was it Friday or Thursday? It doesn't matter. What Yankee pitcher was credited with Joe Torre's first postseason victory in the 1996 postseason, which was actually the first postseason game ever won by Joe Torre as a manager, because his only previous appearance in the postseason before the 1996 Yankees was with the 1982 Atlanta Braves, who got swept Arenio by the St. Louis Cardinals. By the way, we were going to bring up that postseason, the 82 postseason in the final segment. A couple people threw out some answers there, but Stephen Colaciar got it correct. Kind of. He did. He gave us multiple choice there. It was game 2 of the 96 ALDS against Texas, and that's correct. The Yankees got clobbered in game 1, and the Rangers had a lead in game 2, and it really looked like the Rangers were about to take a 2-0 series lead back to Texas in 96. And if the Yankees had lost that series, I think Torre would have been fired after 1 year. They came from behind from the bullpen. He's guessing Wicker or Boehringer. The correct answer is Brian Boehringer. Yes, he was one of the middle relievers for the Yankees, and he came out, and the Yankees won on an error. And Dean Palmer, the fine third baseman for Texas, threw the ball away, and the winning run came in. The Yankees were behind in that game, and they were losing in the ninth inning of game 3. They were almost down 2-1. I'm telling you, if the Rangers won that series, I don't know if they would have beaten Baltimore, but if the Rangers would have won that series, Torre would have been fired and would not be in the Hall of Fame. This is how fragile reality is. Wicker, I think you were trying to say Bob Wickman on that one. And Bob Wickman is one of those unfortunate souls who pitched a bunch of years with the Yankees and somehow missed being in the World Series. Missed winning a World Series title with the Yankees. So I got to come up with a list of those players, like the Bobby Mercers of the world, or who's some Don Mattingly, Dave Righetti. Righetti played in the world. Righetti and Mercer played in the World Series, but never with a champion. Mike Stanley is another one. Bob Wickman is another one. Mike Mussina is another one who pitched in the World Series but didn't win one. Giambi. I got to write a list of the Yankees who put in a lot of years but never won a title with them. But yes, that would have been Bob Wickman. Let's talk about something. Oh, by the way, Yo Stick 31 morning, so excited for Sunday baseball, as am I. But before we go there, I do want to bring something up. There have been a few interim managers, and I've talked about the fact that there have been a bunch of firings, and the only one that I didn't predict correctly has been Schneider of the Baltimore Orioles, of the Toronto Blue Jays. Sorry. Something happened in the game the other day that just made it clear to me that one of these teams has to make a change immediately. It happened in the Orioles-Red Sox game. Now, the Orioles have been dropping like a rock, absolutely falling from the sky, and it's not been pretty. It's not been pretty at all. And in the first game of the doubleheader with the Red Sox, the game went into extras, and it was already kind of a weird game as it was. But the game went into extra innings, and a managerial decision, an inexcusable managerial decision, was made in that the Red Sox had the go-ahead run, the winning run, the Manfred man, if you will, on at second base with one out and Rafael Devers coming to the plate. And it was a lefty-lefty situation, but Rafi Devers has been absolutely on fire. And I stress this, that the Red Sox should not think about moving him anywhere on the planet Earth. Just keep him in the DH spot. And he pitched to him. The Orioles pitched to him. And with that, there was a base open. A single would have won the game. And the batter who was, the Red Sox didn't exactly have murderer's row behind him because Alex Bregman was injured and taken out of the game. And the manager, Tony Mansolino, pitched to Devers. And everyone, the Red Sox announcers were going, what are they doing? And of course, Devers got a base hit up the middle, and the Red Sox won the game. And I wrote right then, they have to change the manager immediately. Now, they wound up winning the second game of the doubleheader 2-1. But Mansolino, I'm sorry, he's there. He's there as an interim manager, and there are lots of veteran managers. I said that like Chico Martin. There are lots of veteran managers who are available right now. By the way, let me just quote a couple of things in the last 10 years. Skip Schumacher won Manager of the Year in 2023. He's not a manager now. Okay? Gabe Kapler. Okay, I'm not a huge Gabe Kapler fan as a manager, but in 2021, he was considered good enough to be the Manager of the Year. By the way, Brandon Hyde was also Manager of the Year in 2023, fired in 2025. Go figure. But you look around, there have been managers who have, Mattingly, was Manager of the Year in the 2020s. We're not talking about ancient history here. We're talking about in recent years, people who have had, quality years as manager. And did Joe Madden suddenly become stupid just because he had a bad year managing with the Angels? Everyone has a bad year managing with the Angels. Although, give Ron Washington credit, the Angels have been on a roll recently and trying to resurrect themselves in a very winnable American League West. But if this interim manager situation is just an interim situation, then they have to change it immediately. Absolutely. They have to call up Joe Madden, call up Skip Schumacher, call up someone who has managerial experience that's filled with good young players. But they need someone to have them line up before it's too late, because we're in that middle thirds of the season. Day after tomorrow is Memorial Day will be in our rearview mirror. And we'll be in that stretch where you're like, okay, should we be trading or not? Because a third of the season will have already passed. And the American League is still a winnable league in terms of becoming a wild card team and making the postseason. But it won't be if you keep handing the car keys over to someone who makes decisions that cost the team the ball game, especially if he's not someone who is supposed to be the long-term solution. If he's not supposed to be the long-term solution, can then get that long-term solution in now. Boy, if there's something you know, that's absolutely wild and unpredictable, it is the NBA playoffs. And we're going to see what's going to happen. Is Oklahoma City going to roll to the finals? Is it going to be Indiana, or are the Knicks going to dust themselves off and get back into the fray? Well, let me tell you something. FanDuel makes it really easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Which players are going to show up for Minnesota? Will they tie the series? And how can tracking their trends help you build to your next bet? What would it look like to combine live prop bets and mid-game based on how the action unfolds? And if you're ready to read on who's heating up, why not back it up with a same-game parlay? How could $200 of bonus bets add to the excitement? That will happen if your first $5 bet wins. If you're new to FanDuel, then this is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. The fact that Memorial Day, we're in Memorial Day weekend right now, and I've said this over and over again, that you really can't start following the standings until pretty much Tuesday. Monday night is when you can really start to look at the standings and start to say, okay, what's going on? But I'll tell you something that's really, really disturbing right now. Do you know what team is on the longest losing streak? Oddly, one of the longest losing streaks right now are the Texas Rangers. You know, the team I picked to win the pennant, the team I thought was going to win a winnable American League West. They've dropped their last 6 games, including being clobbered by the White Sox of all teams. I think there's enough talent on that team, and the West is so winnable that they could dust themselves off. The Angels lost a game yesterday after going a long win streak, but they have kind of reinserted themselves back into the race. But at the bottom of the West standings right now, and with the longest current losing streak in all of baseball, are the Sacramento A's. Now, they have had the misfortune of running headfirst into the hottest team in baseball, which is the Phillies, the team that I picked to win the World Series, that has leapfrogged the Mets right now. And right now, as of this recording, have the best record in baseball. Really, really good. Now, as my cousin David pointed out, they've had a really soft spot in their schedule right now, which is fine, but you're supposed to win those games in the soft part of your schedule. Ask the Rangers, who've been losing games to the White Sox. But the A's have lost, say it with me, 11 straight games. And they lost an extra inning game last night where they were 3 outs away from winning with Mason Miller on the mound. And they've lost a couple of games that were super close. So they've lost a couple of games that looked like they were had control of the game, and suddenly they lost it. It's not that they've been playing the worst baseball you can see, but they have a negative 78 run differential. They've lost 11 games in a row. And the thing that's really disturbing for the A's, and if you're an A's fan, of which why would you be right now in Sacramento? They're not even letting you say the city name. They have a winning record away from Sacramento. They're 14-12. That's not world beating, but that's above 500. At home, they are 11 games under 500. They are 8-19. I witnessed one of those games. I went to the first game they ever won in Sacramento against San Diego. They've only won 7 other games than that. They've lost 19 out of 27 games at home. Meaning you go to a minor league park and you're going to probably see your team get clobbered or lose. but you can't they're not playing for you. And let me just tell you something. Well, by the way, BA Man says people complain about you talking about Sutter Health Park. Clearly, haven't watched a lot of games from there. Multiple Phillies pitchers had their mechanics totally screwed up on that terrible mound. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. They're playing in a minor league ballpark. They're playing in a minor league facility. And there's a difference between a minor league facility and a major league facility. And we're seeing that. You saw, I believe it was Zach Wheeler, BAM Man 100, was talking about how the clay just felt hard and he couldn't push off the rubber hard enough. People have been complaining that the clubhouses are not up to par, that the facilities are not up to par. Do you know why? Because it's a minor league ballpark. Major league ballparks have major league amenities. Remember that great scene when Crash Davis and Bull Durham, when Crash Davis was talking about the differences between the minor leagues and the major leagues, and he was talking about all the luxuries that a major league ballpark has. Yeah, because you've made it. Imagine being called up from AAA and going to another AAA ballpark. And the players are starting to grumble about it. The visiting players come in and say, what the hell are we doing here? Think about the players at home. What player is going to sign with the A's? They got Severino because Fisher, the con artist who currently owns the Sacramento A's, needed to spend money. Otherwise, he wouldn't get his revenue sharing. It was all about how a billionaire can make more money. And someone has to explain this current trend we have in this country where billionaires aren't happy. You're a billionaire. Find a way to be happy. Well, I need more money because I need more billions. That's what John Fisher is. A Nepo baby who inherited billions of dollars, has done nothing with his life, and took the team out of Oakland because the only reason they're playing in Sacramento is he had to have the situation with the stadium changed in order for him to get some more money coming in. And the only reason he signed those players to long-term deals was because he would have been facing legal problems, unable to get some of the revenue sharing if he didn't do it. But now the A's players don't seem that happy there. Not one. What agent in their right mind would send a team or a player to play in Sacramento in a minor league ballpark? And for the fans there, who are not allowed to call them the Sacramento A's, they can call the other team the Sacramento River Cats, and they share a stadium with a major league team, which means the condition of the field is going to be horrible. When a team goes on a road trip, the grounds crew can come in and fix the little divots, make all the, fix the mound, fix the this, fix the that. They can't do that there because they have to share with a minor league team. I said the solution to that is extraordinarily simple. Have the River Cats play somewhere else because they've closed down a lot of California league teams. You can open that up, move the AAA team for the A's to Fresno, move the Fresno franchise to some other city in California that would love to have minor league baseball for the summer. I digress. Here's why this is not sustainable. The A's are playing horribly. And this is right around the time where school's starting to get out. I know, I'm a school teacher here in California. School, for reasons I don't understand, get out in early June and come back in August. This is the time it's supposed to be when interest in baseball catches on, when basketball and hockey start to go away, the playoffs start to wind down, and baseball takes over. And fans in Sacramento, don't call them Sacramento, are going to look up and say, hey, how's that team playing in the minor league stadium? Pretty lousy. So am I going to sit in the heat all summer long and watch a team stink? Are they going to build up a fan base? It hasn't exactly been a bonanza there. And this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. This is the year where there should be excitement. And they're getting 10,000 a game, which is not capacity. It's not great. And that number is going to go down big time if they start to stink. Why would I go? They're not even my team. Most people in Sacramento are Giant fans anyway. And the Giants aren't bad. And you might as well go see a River Cats game because you'll see members who will go on to play for the Giants. And there's no end in sight. We are approaching June. Next week will be June. Will be the midway point of the year. And they haven't even begun to break ground on a stadium. Do we know in Las Vegas? Do we know if they have the financing? We don't. Do we know if they have all the right partners aligned with it for the construction of the stadium, which includes partners for when you see things like the JetBlue luxury booth or the California Pizza Kitchen or whatever it is inside the stadium? Those are partners who pay for that space, which helps the cost of the stadium. They're talking about having to raise billions of dollars and selling off billions of, selling off shares of the team in order to do that. Have they done that? You would think we would find out a little bit about that. Is even a plan for the stadium approved? The last one there had insufficient parking. Has a new one been approved? Do they have the money? We know they haven't started building. They said they were going to build in the first third of the year. Guess what? The first third of the year is in the rearview mirror. We're about at the halfway mark. Is there any evidence that there is going to be a baseball stadium for a major league team built in Las Vegas, period? It's not going to, they're not, 3 years was the best case scenario. There is not a way in hell. Those are 26, 27, 28. There is no way Major League Baseball will be played in Las Vegas in 2029. It's impossible. They haven't even begun. They don't have the money. Have the tariffs increased the cost of it? We're starting to see a lot of construction projects in Las Vegas have stopped. And those are for some people who already have things like casinos, things that tend to bring in money. This is not sustainable. And I will talk about this later, but the commissioner has to step in right now and say, what the hell is going on? There's going to be, if everything goes right, and that has not been the case. But let's say from this point on, from me saying this wearing my pilot shirt, from this point on, everything else goes right with the Vegas situation. That means you're going to have 4 seasons, 4, a presidential term of a team playing in a minor league facility where other things like the winds blowing around in Sacramento, there's no upper deck. So the winds that blow around there wreak havoc with fly balls. You're going to see a summer where it gets into 110 degrees and I've been to a day game in the summer in Sacramento. No one, and I mean nobody sits in the sun there. You're going to see crowds of 3,000. And by year 4, you're going to see crowds of 3,000 on opening day. This is not sustainable. You can't have, because that will be 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years if everything goes right. We can't have this in baseball. With the Rays, at least they have the excuse of it being a hurricane. And I'm absolutely convinced the Orlando thing's going to happen. Either it's going to happen with Orlando, or with the Orlando situation is going to force Tampa to do something. I think something's going to happen in Tampa with the Rays very soon, whether they move to Orlando or they build a downtown stadium. I think that's going to happen soon because money is being talked about there. There's nothing happened with Las Vegas. This is a disaster. And this is why baseball needs a commissioner, not someone who is just a lawyer who pats his frat house buddies on the back, but to say, hey, this is horrible for the game. We can't have this. I want to share a little story that happened a few years ago. I was waiting in line at a bank in Pasadena, and there was a guy who was waiting in line with me. I was at the Wells Fargo Bank there. They're not a sponsor. And it was a older African-American gentleman was standing in line with me, and I saw he was wearing a baseball windbreaker. And and it was a Yankee logo on it. And I asked him if he was a Yankee fan. He said no. He said I'm friends with a couple of people on the Yankees, and they gave me this. I said, oh, okay. Then I paused. And I kind of saw that he was tall, athletic build, and I said, "Did you play?" And he said, "Yeah, I play baseball a little bit." And I nodded my head. And I said, "Like, do you play professionally?" He said, "Yeah, I played a little bit professionally." I said, "Oh, really? What team?" And he kind of looked a little embarrassed. I play for the Milwaukee Brewers. I said, "Oh, really? Okay." He said, "Did you make it to the major leagues?" And he kind of sheepishly, "Yeah, I made it to the major leagues. I made it to the major leagues." I'm like, oh, and I kind of did the math in my head. I kind of figured out, he looked good, but I was trying to figure out the math in my head. And I said, did you play in the early 80s with because the early 80s with the Brewers, that was to this day their greatest teams, where they had, Cecil Cooper and Robin Yount and Paul Molitor and Raleigh Fingers and, Pete Vukovich, all those great teams, Charlie Moore, Jim Gantner, all those great players. And I said, did you play on that team? He said, yeah, I played them. I played with them in the World Series. So immediately I'm like, whoa, like I'm playing Immaculate Grid in real life here. So I'm looking at him and I said, where did you play? And he said, I didn't start. I was an outfielder. And I looked at him and I said, are you Marshall Edwards? And the look on his face was that of complete, he said, yeah. And I said, my goodness, you made that great catch in the playoffs. Don Baylor hit that line drive. It was going to be a bases clearing double, maybe even a grand slam, and you made the great leaping catch in Game 5 of the ALCS. The Brewers were in the American League back then. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, wow. He kind of said, yeah, I did. Because he was filling in for their normal center fielder, Gorman Thomas was injured and taken out of Game 5, and he made a potential game-saving catch in a super dramatic game. And with that, he was, how do I say this? He was very surprised. And I said, it was an honor meeting you, Mr. Edwards. And he said, no, thank you. And then we both went on to do our banking. I got word yesterday that Marshall Edwards died. He was 72. And I didn't know he died until just the other day. This has actually been a tough couple of months for unlikely Brewers postseason heroes. Mark Bruhard came off the bench in Game 4 against the Angels and hit a key home run. And he also was a reserve outfielder who came up big in that playoff series, which if the Brewers don't win those final 3 games against the Angels, then they would be alongside the Seattle Mariners as the only franchises to never appear in a World Series. And the Brewers actually started as the pilots. So every team, you would say that every team that started in Seattle has missed the World Series, but no, the 82 Brewers made it, and no small part to Mark Bruhard and to Marshall Edwards, who we've lost. Both of them lost them. So rest in peace, Mr. Edwards. I'm glad I recognized you in the bank line. And I'm going to end this with our trivia question. Before we go, though, I will say thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, stay right here on the Locked On MLB feed. You can check out Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night right here on the Locked On MLB feed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And the trivia question is going to be this. We're talking about available managers. We're talking about managers who had success. How about this one? Who is the only manager to win the Manager of the Year in 4 different decades? That's right. There's someone who won it in 4 different decades. And that is the trivia question that I'll have for tomorrow. So, what Yostik says, still no breaking ground in Vegas either. Who knows what's going to happen there? At least the Rays are talking about repairing the roof to play there next year. Yeah, the Rays are at least making some progress. And I think the Rays are looking to stay in Central in Central Florida. Now, wait a minute. I got news that Mark Brewhart didn't die. Well, then someone sent me the wrong thing. Someone sent me the thing that he died. Well, I know Marshall Edwards died. By the way, my apologies to the Brewhart family. I wrote a thing about Marshall Edwards, and a friend of mine who's a big Milwaukee Brewers fan said, yeah, we lost Mark Brewhart as well. All right, I need to get to the bottom of this, Parker Idelson. That's right. I may have prematurely announced someone's death, and I'm going to get on my friend who is from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm looking at you, Daryl Weaver. My buddy Daryl Weaver, who's from Oshkosh, who I wrote to him and said, yeah, Marshall Edwards died. I said, yeah, we lost Mark Brewhart this week too. I got to check my sources. Parker Adelson, you better be right about this. All right. Well, I thank goodness I didn't make this whole segment about, thank goodness most of the segment was about Marshall Edwards. All right. Well, anyway, talking about whether or not Mark Brewhart or not died, and I hope he's still alive. Remembering Marshall Edwards, saying the Orioles need to change their managerial situation before I finish this sentence. And the situation in Sacramento is just not sustainable. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. My apologies to the Brewhart family if I'm wrong.